Hey y'all, welcome to Right Choice Shearing. This is the third of 8 sheep in this condition. The owners of this flock have been through a lot in the last several years, including a tornado hitting their house, it burned down, losses in the family, and a lot of other life struggles. During this chaotic time frame, they also had their shearer retire. So that means that these animals missed their fall shearing because they couldn't find anybody to take care of them. They did the diligent thing and got onto our list. When I arrived, I anticipated it was going to be 3-minute shearings, and it turned out being 3 to 5 times that on every sheep. We were out there for about 4 hours and removed over 170 pounds of mats. I had to stay focused on what I was doing because I needed to beat the heat and get these sheep on their feet. I definitely had my work cut out for me in this job, but I had sharp gear, no fear, so let's see what it took to get out there and shear.
This fellow looks like he's developed his own armor. Watch the way it moves as I lay him down. There's very few breaks in this casing of wool that allows for him to move. This belly is a complete disaster, and hidden in the middle of it is a penis. This escalates things several notches. Not only do I have to figure out how I'm going to get all these mats off, but I have to do it without losing some dangly bits. It's easier to spot the extra pieces when there's testes hanging between the legs, and even easier to complete it when there's no contention. But it seems like my new friend likes to live on the edge. I can't relate, but I don't blame him for being nervous. We just met. But even without his trust, I'm able to clean it up. Ugh, I forgot there was a tail, and I have to remove it from a custom casing? Yeah, he's really gonna like that. But look how perfectly it formed a shell around the tip of that tail. I mean, it is stark white under there. Okay, now his kicking is actually becoming a problem. We're only a few notches under 100 degrees out here, and I need to keep him calm, otherwise we are dancing with the devil in heat stress. The only way to beat the heat is efficient, calm shearing. I have 15 years of experience and have shorn many overgrown animals, but this isn't an everyday thing for me. The hip of an animal should just roll off, but instead I'm having to deconstruct mats just to get in. And a typical animal will shear in less than 3 minutes, but we've almost eaten up all of that time before even getting to the main body of the sheep. Thankfully, I'm proving to be a fast learner. My first 2 sheep that were in this condition, when I got to the last side, I struggled because the first hip was trapped underneath the animal while I was trying to take off the last side. So this time, I'm trying to form a path on the outside of the shell to where I can take this entire section off in one large chunk. I've put on gear that has wider gaps in the teeth so that I can cut through the exterior of the shell with a little bit more ease. Having the smaller gap teeth was really burning up my handpiece. Now that I've broken a path on the outside, I can start peeling away this section, and honestly it's going pretty smooth. When it comes to shearing, timing is everything. My goal for today is to get the bulk of it off, and then in 4 months I'll be back for the regular time shearing, and I'll clean it all up. But today's priorities are these mats. I can't even imagine what it would feel like to have a free tail. Although he gave me a little bit of trouble at the beginning, he's really relaxed into this process, which is perfect because I need to figure out how I'm going to maneuver these neck mats. Not too shabby for having an arm that's completely smoked. I have very few energy reserves, so I can't afford to waste them fighting him. I need to convince him that he wants to sit still while I run sharp things by his eyeballs and ears. But he's not buying what I'm selling. That's okay, I just provide him the space to do a little bit of wiggling, and I try to get to what I can. I imagine that a lot of these mats are pulling on his skin, and that irritates him as well. Referring back to what little movement this shell had as we were laying the sheep down, I can definitely conclude that in this position, it's pulling all over his body. But I need to free up as much of the skin on his neck as possible and finish cleaning up around his ears and head. There's not a lot of places on the sheep that the shearer can see the tip of their comb working. Most of this is reliant on feel and what the curve should be. But obviously nothing about this is normal. I didn't even feel that nick when it happened. The good news is he didn't even react to it. If you've heard me talk about nicks in the past, then you understand how lanolin works. If not, the gist of it is that lanolin is an oil produced by the sheep that helps heal nicks. I always try my hardest not to nick a sheep, but there are more pressing matters than a skin nick, such as stress. A complication with a nick may be an infection from flies, but heat stress results in death. So if I had to play some morbid game of would you rather, I'd pick the skin nicks over heat stroke. In a perfect world, I'd choose neither. But I'm not a perfect shearer, and this is definitely not a perfect sheep. These matted up mutton chops are a disaster, and his dreaded earring is doing nobody any favors. It truly astounds me how fast this herd matted up. I've shorn animals with 4 years worth of growth that didn't mat up like this. And I'm so fascinated by the black lines left behind from the breaks in the mat. I've heard a couple theories on it, that it is from the sun being able to get through, that it is from edema, that it is scarring. But if it is scarring, it'll be there in a couple months when I come back for his next haircut. Wow, we are 10 minutes into this shearing, and I am just getting to the last side. When we teach schools, we only allow the animal to be on its rump for no longer than 10 minutes. This is to ensure that the animal isn't getting worked up in the hands of a newbie for too long. But these hellacious mats are taking me forever to get undone. The last side is supposed to roll right off. But this is more like playing Jenga, block by block. I know he's losing patience with me. We're already over 10 minutes, and that's over 3 times as long as it would take me on an average sheep. But I can't move any faster, buddy. I've got on the bigger tooth comb so I can even get through these mats, and I really don't want to risk nicking him again. Anytime I interact with an animal, I think of it as a constant energy exchange. Herd animals don't need impulse control, so when they're uncomfortable, they fight. But each little kick moves us closer to heat stress on the board. My personal focus, besides getting these mats off, is to keep my energy calm so I don't work them up even more. It's really difficult not to let the frustration get to you, to envelop a calm when you're worried about how you're going to complete this task, to split your attention between breathing and shearing techniques. In moments like this, it doesn't just require focus, but also motivation to get to the end, and the ability to learn. It seems that my struggle with the first 2 in this condition have paid off, and I found some sort of solution to the fleece being trapped under the animal. But I'm still trying to figure out how to tackle stripping off this casing. What you can't tell here is how bad my left arm is hurting. In shearing, your offhand should always be busy, but that's not typically moving around heavy mats. And this isn't my only job for the day. We had 3 more jobs scheduled after this, but because of the time demand of this task, we weren't able to get to the last job until the next morning. But in the end, everybody gets their summer cut, so it's a happy story. After 13 minutes together, this guy no longer is trapped in his fiber prison. Next up, out to pasture to feel the breeze on his skin. 16 pounds of mats to fight. That was